Good evening, everybody. After a couple weeks of talk and hype, it's here. The 3-point Blitz is finally here. Your boy Nicky Steve's here, going to talk every Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Biggest NFL, NBA related news. As you'll see as the show goes along, different times of the year, like it'll obviously change. Obviously, this time of year we'll talk a lot of NFL and NBA. Then as we get to the draft, once we get to like May, we'll talk more about the NBA during the NBA playoffs. But yes, folks, it's here. NFL and NBA fans, this is the place to be on the Hardcore Sports Network, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Sunday. We're doing this both on my channel and the Hardcore Sports Network. Shout out to the Hardcore Sports. And here we are, close to a year later. It's episode 50, folks.
Fasten your seatbelts for the realest Eagles and Sixers YouTuber! One who plays no clickbait and gets to the point! The myth, the legend, Nicky Steve's! Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keeps things real. I'm 50 statue, think they slate, dropping unrealistic magic. 2K takes for the clip. Even though cats like that get views closer to the milli, never hear me preach LeBron to Philly. Before you watch the Eagles all the way through the early 22, authentic talk, forget what others do. Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keeps things real. The 24/7, 365 way. Sports content for the reals to fill the day.
And yes, here we are. So we took 2 weeks off over the course of that year. We had a week during the summer, and then earlier in between the conference championship and the Super Bowl, we took a week away. So it's been pretty much a year if you take those 2 weeks, because that would have been episode 52 weeks later. So here we are 1 year later. It works out perfectly right. Sounds like a bigger milestone than 52. It stands out more. So here we are 1 year later. We're still doing this thing and still doing the Hardcore Sports Network and Nicky Steve's channels. But obviously it's a different time and day than it was initially did it back then. But we're still doing it. We still do NBA, NFL content. As the intro of the first said, for, March, April, a lot of NBA and NFL mix. So it's March, so we're doing it again. We're going to start off with the rant of the week. This is going to talk about how Nick Nurse is not necessarily the best coach fit to serve the 76ers in this situation with the way the roster is constructed. Because the way it's set up currently, you're relying on your main guys you're paying to deliver. And if they're injured or suspended in the case of Paul George, then, the team struggles. And we've seen that with Embiid. He pretty much spent almost all of last year out, minus a handful of games. And this year, okay, you had pretty much a full to rest and recover and come back stronger, rejuvenated. And he's still missing time. He can barely play more than a couple games at a time. And now you see with the Sixers, when they don't have Embiid or George or even Maxey, dude, they got nothing going for them. And look, it's crazy. Just a couple of weeks ago, you guys remember 6th seed. You guys remember Chad, Arku, and Greg? Remember, we were talking about this just a few weeks ago. And now I got a poll question on my channel asking, will the Sixers make the playoffs? Yes, being either the 1 through 6 seed, more likely the 6th seed, realistically, if that, or a play-in team. Right now, they've fallen to the 8th seed. The 8th seed. And I remember, I watched episode 160 of the Pick and Roll podcast from last week. And Blazed talked about this. The Sixers could have just as easily went all in during the trade deadline and done a couple lower value trades and gotten some more pieces. Like some suggestions he made would be, guys, they could have gotten a Nikola Vucevic as a depth piece or maybe an AD. Obviously, you weren't going to get both those guys, but you could have made a push for one or the other, preferably Vucevic, who's more durable of the two. And that would have been, and plus, Vucevic has played with the Sixers. He was there his rookie season, so he at least he's been there before. And plus now, if Vucevic was there more as like a power or a center, it was a different story because more experience. He's had his runs with the Magic and the Bulls. It's not like when he was a rookie and he was still green to the NBA game and was still learning and adjusting. Now, he's experienced veteran now. He would fit much better as a role player, or not even those guys. You could have gotten trade deadline, try to go get Yabusele back because Yabu hasn't really played that well with the Knicks. He was excelling in Philly, which would make all the sense in the world. It's like, all right, he tried to go somewhere else. He hasn't really excelled as much there. Why not bring him back to Philly where he could excel? And then you look at the way this roster is constructed. Let's take a look at the Sixers roster, and you'll see where we're coming from in just a minute. And I'm going to share the roster with you right now. So if you look at the Sixers roster, you got Dominic Barlow, Marjon Beauchamp, or Beauchamp, Adam Bona, Johnny Broom, Andre Drummond, VJ Edgecombe, Justin Edwards, Embiid, who's in and out of the lineup, Paul George, who's already had his injury problems, but now he's dealing with a suspension, Quentin Grimes, who's been a complete flop, especially recently, Kyle Lowry, who he's basically more of a coach at this point. And I do believe one day Kyle Lowry will become an NBA head coach once he does finally retire within a few years upon retirement. He'll either be an assistant coach and eventually a head coach, but he certainly shouldn't be playing at this point. Tyrese Martin, Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre Jr., who's kind of meh. You got Cameron Payne, who hasn't really done much, Dalen Terry, Jabari Walker, Trendon Watford. Out of all those names on the roster, who really stands out as a potential game changer? Let's see. Tyrese Maxey. Holmes been really good as a rookie thus far. So you got VJ Edgecombe, Embiid when he is healthy, and Paul George when he's healthy. He's a decent role player, but he doesn't play enough to actually help the team. Between all the injuries and now the suspension for the PEDs, I mean, really, who do you have? The Sixers could have very easily went during the trade deadline, and this also falls on Daryl Morey, too, not just Nick Nurse. Daryl Morey, they could have easily made some moves. Go get Yabusele back. They could have gone to get Ricky Council back in the fold. Or maybe even try to go for a veteran. Or maybe to like a Malik Monk, somebody. At least someone that could help when your main guys aren't healthy. And you saw last night against the Cavs that when they had nobody really helping them. And you see how awful they looked in that game? They got spanked by the Cavs. No Maxey, no Embiid, no Paul George, aka the big three that hasn't been. What do you expect from them? And this is what happens when you don't have the right pieces around you. Look at it. You saw in that during that run where Jokic was out, the plans to take an East Coast road trip, beat a healthy Sixers, beat a Boston Celtics team without their three-time regular season MVP and former Finals MVP. But that's also because the Denver Nuggets actually have depth on their roster. Or even look at the Cavs, for example. One of the reasons they're at the top of the East is you actually have guys like, Dean Wade, not the greatest player in the world, but a guy who can actually help out a little bit. Guy who can get you some rebounds, get you some points. Evan Mobley, who's maybe not living up to the hype he did early on, but he can still get you boards. He can still help out, get you some blocks here and there. You still got Dennis Schroeder, who's a solid role player veteran. And you got, Larry Nance Jr., solid role player. You at least have some pieces on the team and some depth that can help out. Even the Detroit Pistons. Tobias Harris excels better in that role. It still lost to the Thunder last night with no center. We're going to talk about that too in a little bit, or could definitely talk about how the Thunder, when I get to my teams of the week and players of the week, I'm going to definitely have something to say about the Thunder for sure. But back to the Sixers. You look at that roster I just went through. Beside VJ Edgecombe, who really stands out when your big three aren't healthy. And newsflash, with all due respect to Edgecombe, he's still a rookie and he's still learning. So if you're asking, he's still green and still adjusting. While good at by rookie standards, VJ Edgecombe to lead the team alone without any true help, it's not going to be a recipe for a successful team night at all. I mean, that's just, obviously, that's the problem right there. And Nick Nurse, he doesn't really know how to adjust to this current situation. It's just, the Sixers are not really the right situation for a Nick Nurse's coaching style. He had the right fit in Toronto, but with the Sixers, it just doesn't really work here. It just does not have that same factor. And it's a shame, too, because here was a team just a few weeks ago where the 6th seed, granted, they weren't contenders, but they were at least. Look at what's happened over the course of the past couple weeks or so. They had that win over they really, ever since the All-Star break, really have struggled. They've lost some questionable games. They've lost to the Knicks. They've lost to the Hawks twice. They got destroyed by the Spurs. They got destroyed by Boston, got destroyed by the Cavs last night. They're on a 2-game losing streak. They've lost 4 of their last 5. And this team's fallen now down to the 8th seed. It's obvious, though, it's not just that, but Nick Nurse just doesn't, he's not the right coach for the situation. And Daryl Morey just, instead of coasting off guys from his past or guys that his coach, Nick Nurse, likes, right, he could have easily gone in, do what teams like the Bulls, hell no. Do what teams like the Celtics, Spurs, and Thunder do, and actually build up a roster, solid roster from top to bottom, or hell, even the Denver Nuggets, like I said. I mean, those teams at least have depth across their roster, and they're not just relying on a handful of players, hoping they all stay healthy. And newsflash, if they don't stay healthy, it ain't going to work out. Eventually, that ship's going to fall apart, and that's what's happening with the Sixers here, where they're now the 8th seed, and we don't even know. I mean, they could be honestly fall to the 10th seed the way it's going right now, unless you just hope that Maxey returns, then Embiid returns, then this team can at least win some games down the line. I mean, you were talking what? A few weeks ago, you just need 9 wins to get to above 500 record. That should have got you in the top 6, but now you don't even know at this point you don't know at this point what's going on with them. How the far they fallen? It's ridiculous. So, unfortunately, though, that's what happens, though, when you don't build up a team properly. There's so many players you could look at across that would have been better fits than what we have right now. I could even talk guys like Malik Monk, Yabusele, who actually played best individually in Philly. That would have been a good idea to bring him back. I mean, they could have done what the Lakers did during the 2023 trade deadline, where they realized they couldn't win with a bunch of old guys. They traded off guys like Westbrook and got some younger pieces, got Rui Hachimura. And they got guys like Malik Monk was there for that run when the Lakers pushed their way to the play-in. Got the 7th seed, was it? Yeah, they won in the opening round against the Warriors, got the upset in the second round against the Grizzlies, and then, they won in the Warriors second round, then they lost to the Nuggets in the conference finals, but they at least made a go at it. The Sixers could have done something very similar easily. Go get a bunch of those guys, like I said, Ricky Council, or better, maybe release Kyle Lowry, give a guy from the G League an opportunity, a guy who's been dominating over there, an opportunity on the 76ers NBA roster. But instead, they played their cards wrong, and here's what they got instead. And now, this is where it's at instead. But we're enough of ranting about the Sixers. Now, we will come back to the NBA, but right now, we're going to talk about NFL free agency. Oh, boy. Well, for an Eagles fan, no, this was not a good first week. This was not a good first week at all. But, I mean, what happened yesterday with the Eagles losing so many guys. And I just asked myself, what the hell, man? I mean, I get, it's free agency. It's just what happens, but it's just like you wonder, man. I'm looking for the video right now. I'm going to show you guys a little video that perfectly summarizes Eagles fans' reactions to this week, man, because it's just like, I'm going to find it right now for you guys. So give me 1 minute. Then after that, we're going to talk about the actual free agent moves itself, particularly day one, talk about the winners and losers, do some updates. And here we go. Give me 1 second, folks. Because, oh, man, we got destroyed. Yeah. Here we go. Give me 1 second, because here we go. Because this is pretty much what happened with the Eagles right here. Give me 1 second. Because we look at this. Look at this. This is us as Eagles fans right here. Look. Blankenship to the Texans, Nakobe Dean to the Raiders, Jalen Phillips to the Panthers, Jahan Dotson to the Falcons.
No. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No. 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 Hell no. 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 I refuse. No. No.
Man, what the hell, man? Dude, I understand it's free agency, but gosh damn. You let all those players slip through your fingers. I get Nakobe Dean, Jahan Dotson. I get it. They were just lower level guys. But if anything, the Eagles should have put all their eggs in the basket of making sure they got Jalen Phillips and Reed Blankenship back. Especially Blankenship, because the secondary was the weak point of our defense last year. We should have really gone in, make sure we got, especially Blankenship, where we need help in the secondary. But we lost out on that, and oh man, that Blankenship's now to the Texans, an already loaded defense. But you know what? I'm sure Blankenship's going to enjoy his time there. He's going to get paid, and we'll see how that goes right there. But here was some of yesterday's main moves as far as day one. As you can see right here, we're going to look at this day one. We got the main moves day one. Look at that right there. Kenneth Walker to the Kansas City Chiefs. And we even Bo from Sunday morning show, even as a Seahawks fan, he predicted that eventually that Kenneth Walker would end up being moved and that the Seahawks wouldn't re-sign him. And ultimately, he didn't get re-signed. He ended up going to Kansas City, though. Which, hey, that's an awesome, great move for Kansas City, because now with Kenneth Walker having that Super Bowl MVP to his resume, this is really the first time in the Mahomes era that Kansas City has really had a true number one back for Mahomes to hand the ball to. Because they had Kareem Hunt for most of his rookies of his first season as a starter, but Hunt got cut after that video. So that didn't last long the first go around. And then you had, remember, Kareem Hunt did have a comeback run, but in that comeback run, he was more just a role player on the offense. You had other guys, too, throughout that offense, like Damian Williams and other guys that were just there, but they never really had a true number one back that entire time. Even Clyde Edwards-Helaire looked like he had a spark for a minute before a major injury slowed him down. Kansas City's never really had a true back. And now with Kenneth Walker, you're bringing him in on that contract. This could be the first time in that Mahomes era they've really had a good number. You take your time when Mahomes comes back healthy, that could add that spark to their offense that they were missing last year. I mean, it looks like Travis Kelce's coming back for one more year, but we don't know how efficient he's going to be. But you got him looks like he's coming back. Now you got Kenneth Walker, so it's like, all right, you potentially have something to work with, but what comes next? Is Xavier Worthy still a valuable piece? Do you go and get another receiver? Do you draft someone in the draft? Do you rebuild the offensive line through the draft in the opening round or through free agency? What's next for Kansas City? Kenneth Walker is going to enjoy a nice contract. He gets to play with the top quarterback. He gets to go to a winning culture that's won 3 Super Bowls in recent years, and that gives them a chance of going for another Super Bowl. So that could be a really good move. And for Kenneth Walker, he's got to be excited about going there. Obviously, he looked at his offers. He felt Kansas City was the best offer, and he's going to give it a go. We got to wait and see, though, ultimately what happens. Then you got Tyler Lindenbaum from the Ravens going to the Raiders. So now the Ravens lose their center, and got to wonder, what are first for the Ravens, what do they do next? You lost your key center that Lamar Jackson's been taking snaps under. So it's a kind of a tough. So that's an interesting question there. Now for the Raiders, you get yourselves what seems like an upgrade at center. So obviously you can tell the Raiders, as you're going to see in a minute, they've been very busy throughout free agency thus far. Wasn't their only move on it. This was just one move. They're trying to go get as many players as they can, which if you're the Raiders, why not? You got to just throw the money at everything you got in free agency. Get what you can, because after last season, holy smokes, what do you have to lose if you're the Raiders? I mean, just go out there, get whatever you can get player-wise. Any former Pro Bowl or something, just bring them in, even if it's a veteran on a one-year deal to help rebuild, to help mentor the younger players through the rebuild, something. And Tyler Lindenbaum, okay, he's a center with at least has credentials and a name, so I give him props on that. But then the Falcons. All right. Tua, okay, to be fair, it's a one-year deal, but at the same time, Tua, who's we know has a significant concussion history. We even saw last season. If you watch the way Tua play, you can clearly tell he's not the same player. It looks like all the concussions and all the time he's gotten his bell rung has thrown off his throwing mechanics, and he's not the same quarterback that he was even 2022-23 when he actually had a spark. And now the Dolphins let him go. They knew that his best years were behind him. The Falcons, though, what are they doing now? Because Cousins hit the free agent market. They got a Michael Penix Jr. going into his 3rd season who has a lot of question marks about his future. And now you're bringing in Tua. I could see bringing him as a mentor, but when you have no stability at quarterback, how does that really work? Like, I could see if the Raiders brought in Tua on a one-year deal to try to mentor Fernando Mendoza. I get that. Or I could even see maybe the Texans bringing him in to try to help CJ Stroud out a little bit mentor-wise. But for the Falcons, what are they thinking? Are they really so low on Michael Penix Jr. confident-wise that they go for a more experienced former Pro Bowler version of him, basically? It's just, to me, it's the Falcons being the Falcons. Any chance they have of really making some noise, they always do something stupid to squander it. And based off recent history, I don't see why the Falcons get the benefit of the doubt. I just don't. And then we got the heart wrencher, which led to that Tracy Morgan meme. Jalen Phillips to the Panthers. And here was one of two, to me, top priorities for the Eagles to make sure they were signed on the defensive side of the ball. For the Panthers, you're talking about a team who made the playoffs with only 8 wins last year. You're hoping to improve upon that effort going into next year. Now, if Jalen Phillips can be utilized the same way he was utilized by Vic Fangio, he could be a difference maker for that Panthers and make their defense even more lethal. The Panthers defense, who with the help of J.C. Horner, who were actually really solid unit with takeaways last year. I think they even led the league in interceptions, if I'm not mistaken. You're talking about a Panthers defense that kind of gets slept on because they're a lower market team and they're not necessarily contenders. And now you're bringing in a Jalen Phillips to the mix. And if he gets utilized right by the Panthers, that could make their defense even more dangerous, particularly their pass rush. So there's some real potential for Jalen Phillips to be a game changer for them in this scenario. Let's take a look at the comment. Raiders spent some money. Hey, they have to. They have to. Trust me. Yep. And they're going to probably spend some more because when you're that bad, you got to throw the book at everything you have. Try and get better. And to it to the Falcons. Even our crew's like, huh? Yeah, that one didn't make much sense. I'm really trying to figure that one out because I really don't see where it says. Like, I could see if it were the Raiders or something like that. Like I said, like maybe a 1-year mentor deal I could get, or even like the Giants on a 1-year deal to be a mentor. Well, the Giants still out. Was Russell still under contract? But like I could see a team with a young quarterback, but the Falcons, I get Michael Penix is still technically going into year 3, but with his injury history, man, the odds aren't favorable. But speaking of quarterbacks, so we're still on that subject. Let's move along to the next one. The next batch from the day one, you got Malik Willis to the Dolphins. This came shortly after the news that Tua got released. So we knew that Malik Willis would be at the top of the free agent market. We saw what he did filling in for Jordan Love. He individually put himself up a respectable effort worthy of an opportunity to be somebody's starter. That goes to show you that maybe Malik Willis in Tennessee wasn't the real problem. Maybe the biggest problem with the Titans is the way that team's structured. But then you saw actually a Malik Willis in a better situation could do something more. Now, if you're the Miami Dolphins, you actually believe that Malik Willis could potentially be that guy, kind of like a Sam Darnold was 2 years ago with Minnesota, last year to some degree for Seattle. But if you want Malik Willis to be that guy, now what you got to do, Dolphins, build around him. Look at the free agent market. Try to make a trade for a wide receiver. Go make sure you got an offensive line to surround him. You know, do kind of basically if you're the Dolphins now that you got Malik Willis, if you really think he can be your guy, do what the Raiders did and spend some money, bring some players in, try to make the most of that team. Because that's really what the Dolphins should be doing now. I mean, I know it's just they're most likely going to spend on the defensive side because you got Jeff Hafley, the former Packers D coordinator, who's a defensive-minded head coach based on that. But you got to at least get some guys around Malik Willis now to at least give. So that would be the smart move now for the Dolphins. You got Malik Willis. Now go spend, get some teammates around him, carefully invest those draft picks, and try to build a team around him. Now, that can be easier said than done because you still got Buffalo and New England with, but at least you've got to make an effort to build a team around him. And then for the Eagles, the one good news so far is we got Jordan Davis back, which after his last season, that's a good deal because, you know, Jordan Davis knows this defense. We know what he can do when he's in shape. You see, and Jordan Davis was kind of iffy those first couple of years, but part of that was, although the weight, he had 2 carrying. Now that he lost weight, he's managed to get in shape. We saw what he could do as a slimmer version himself. We saw that kick return to seal the deal against the Rams with that blocked field goal. Yeah, you see what Jordan Davis can do. He would have never made that play before, so That's a good re-signing there. I like that for the Eagles. But now you got another problem. Your secondary. You lost Reed Blankenship to the Texans. Jalen Phillips and Reed Blankenship, like I said, were the two you couldn't lose, especially Blankenship with that secondary last year where you had Adoree Jackson and then Keely Ringo, who just, oh my gosh. I mean, dude, that was easily the weakest part of the defense by a mile. How could you look at Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson and think those two guys were worthy of coming back and being top, part of the Eagles secondary, especially if you're an Eagles fan? How did you do that? So I think we needed Reed Blankenship because we need as much strength in that linebacker room, or not that linebacker, that secondary room as possible after last season. And now we lost one of our lead guys in the secondary in safety. Reed Blankenship is going to go to the Texans. And you know what? I wish Reed Blankenship best of luck with the Texans. And even same with Jalen Phillips, man. Thank you guys for your efforts and contributions. Reed Blankenship, thanks for your contributions during the Super Bowl run. Sorry we couldn't match a deal to keep you, but hey, best of luck to your endeavors in Houston. Jalen Phillips, best of luck with the Panthers. That's part of the free agency game right there. And now, Eagles, what you gonna do? Come on, do something, man. I mean, it's only day 2 of free agency, so I mean, there could be something happening right now. Adam Schefter could be breaking something about the Eagles getting someone at this very moment. For all, or it could be breaking in about 10 minutes from now. Who knows? But that was a gain for the Houston Texans right there. Now you add a guy to the secondary in Reed Blankenship. Obviously, you're hoping this works better than him, CJ Gardner-Johnson on the Texans. But yeah, that looks like that could be a good piece right there. But we also got to wait and see. Now for the Seahawks, though, there is, if you're any Seahawks fans, if Bo or any Seahawks fans catches, good news is you get Rashid Shaheed back, who was a valuable piece for them, especially in the divisional and conference championship games where he helped set the tone early. The kick return against the Niners and then the deep bomb early in the conference championship against the Rams. So it's good he's coming back for the Seahawks. And then you got an interesting one. The Steelers signing Rico Dotto. That was an interesting one. Now, obviously, the Steelers need it back because Kenneth Gainwell went to the Buccaneers. So it'll be curious to see what's happening there. And you got Chicago is heating up. Yep. And speaking of Chicago, there's something else we got to talk about too, not just what happened yesterday. I'll talk about it a little bit, but I'll redo like a Cliff Notes recap of it. DJ Moore to the Bills. Now, at first, it was looking like Tyreek Hill might be the favorite to go to Buffalo, but at the same time, DJ Moore, what he does is he adds that extra receiver. He adds that top receiver to the Buffalo's offense that they haven't had in a while. The closest thing they had to it was Stephon Diggs during his tenure there. And obviously, based off what's happened on the field, I don't think that's going to I don't know if Stephon Diggs maturity-wise returning is the best move, but with Tyreek Hill, though, he would have been a great deep threat weapon for Buffalo, but the maturity issues draw some room for concern. Whereas DJ Moore, well, he's been really good, actually. He was really good for Chicago last year, especially. And now you're taking a guy like that who's in a loaded wide receiver room and bringing him to Buffalo, who needs an upgraded receiver. And he'll be a good upgrade for Josh Allen. Plus, he doesn't have that immaturity. He doesn't have the immature factor and doesn't bring the drama to the locker room like a Tyreek Hill. So that's a good move for Buffalo. I mean, it could be similar to T.O.'s first year with the Eagles. Remember, the Eagles were on the cusp a couple straight years. They knew they needed to get a better receiver, and they went and got Terrell Owens. It's kind of similar to that here in regards, okay, Buffalo's been on the cusp. You got a new coach. You promoted Joe Brady to head coach. You're hoping he's better than Sean McDermott. And now you bring DJ Moore, who's a kind of pretty underrated receiver, and plus someone who's you believe has the maturity to help a team out too. So you got those factors right there. So I think this could be a really good help for the Buffalo Bills. And plus, this isn't the only thing, too, with Buffalo. They also work deal. Gets a new extension now. So now you got DJ Moore, Dawson Knox, Josh Allen's still there. So it'll be interesting to see what Buffalo does, but what else happens too? Because remember, it's only day 2, so there's still got time. We're still got to wait and see what's going to happen. And a few signings I didn't mention yet. I got Kenneth Gainwell to the Buccaneers. Now you're hoping that with Kenneth Gainwell that maybe, he finds the same spark. He has the same spark he did with Pittsburgh, and he can actually hoping he excels in that that Tampa Bay offense. And hey, with Kenneth Gainwell being a former Eagle, there is obviously, I do wish him well. So hopefully Kenneth Gainwell can duplicate some of his Steelers success down there. And then you got also, speaking of Tampa Bay, Mike Evans on the move. I mean, Mike Evans, let's face it, it was a great run, and he had a phenomenal run over in Tampa. He's potentially a future Hall of Famer you're talking about, for gosh sake. So, hey, good for now. Mike Evans, though, he is coming off a major. So I get, though, but at the same time, the Bucs, first off, now they got Emeka Ibuka, who looks like he could be Mike Evans' successor. And with Evans coming off a major injury, being getting kind of toward the twilight years of his career, you got to wonder, is Mike Evans going to start winding down now, especially off that injury-riddled season last year? So there is that question, number one. So I guess the Bucs just decided to move on. The 49ers, they're obviously Mike Evans is ring chasing, looking for that second ring. And the Niners are hoping that Mike Evans will be an addition to add to their offense. Because you got George Kittle, he got injured in the playoffs last year. I mean, he got it, which in the wild card game against the Eagles, you don't know if he's going to come back in September or not. A. And B, how much longer are guys like, because you got guys like George Kittle who's had several injuries. I mean, Christian McCaffrey had a healthy year last year, but he does have that injury history that's still always going to be a big concern when you're talking about the 49ers. And I'm sure if you ask CJ Ruthless or any other 49ers fans on here, they'll probably, if they're giving an honest answer, they'll tell you that, yes, that is the risky factor of having those guys they have, like the Nick Bosa's, the Fred Warners, the Christian McCaffreys, George Kittles of the world. What's going to happen next year? How long are they going to stay healthy? So, I mean, on one hand, I was going to be smart and say Mike Evans coming off an injury fits in perfectly, but I'm not going to, well, technically I just did say it. So if I'm going to hell for that, I'm going to hell for that. But, and Mike Evans, though, let's not ramble him. He's obviously trying, he wants the ring chase, and the Niners think he could help their offense if he stays healthy. So we'll have to wait and see. Then Arku said he was hoping Evans went somewhere else. Yeah, because that's obviously not a good idea. I know, man. Coming off a major injury, rattled with was it knee injury? It was a concussion was one of them, and then a knee injury too, I believe. Yeah, that's going to the Niners and knowing the luck they've had with injuries, or poor luck more specifically. That's not a good move for a guy coming off an injury. I mean, you're hoping that he does stay healthy and that come fall that he is able to help out. But knowing that history, there is that room for concern. And you got to wonder what's going to happen. And then Arku says he doesn't like the Niners. Well, we get it. There's a little rivalry. Arku's a Cowboys fan, so there's that 40 that probably, one of the biggest non-division rivalries in football of all time. I would say, honestly, the biggest non-division rivalry in football. The biggest player rivalry non-division was Brady Manning, but team rivalry outside of your division is Steelers and that's the biggest intra-conference rivalry. Biggest intra-division rivalry is Cowboys and 49ers, which spanned through the 80s, 90s. years they've clashed a few times in the playoffs too. So there's obviously that rivalry. But as far as Mike Evans goes, man, to me, it's not the most favorable situation, an optimistic situation. But you're hoping Mike Evans stays healthy and that the Niners can stay healthy. But at the same time, realistically, it's not the best. But those mostly what I wanted to say about day one. There was also Isaiah Likely as well to the Giants. We had a feeling that might happen. To the Giants, in suit, a guy who can help Jackson Dart transition from Brian Daboll to John Harbaugh. So that can help out. He can be a guy who can help the team transition. And usually that's always the case when a coach moves. A player or two from their former team moves with them to help with the transition. So this has the chance to at least help out a little bit. But it's going to take more than that for the Giants to actually do something, though. Because, yeah, the Giants do have potential with Jackson Dart. Cam Scatterboo, you just hope he can come back and still be the same running back. But we've seen with running backs with leg injuries, that doesn't always happen. Because you remember Nick Chubb, when he came back from his injury, he just hasn't really been the same back since. I mean, who knows? Maybe, to be fair, maybe Nick Chubb one day gets another opportunity as a starter, as a little mini career resurrection. But to be fair, Adrian Peterson came back from a leg injury. He came back from a major injury and won an MVP. So it's not completely out of the realm of possibilities. But and remember, McCaffrey came back from tendons injuries and had a really good year. So, but with Scatterboo, with that major injury he had, we still got to wait and see if he comes back and can be the same back, number one. And Jackson Dart, second question is, are you going to have an offensive line that can protect him? So even though I say this, the Giants have potential to get better, but we still a wait and see situation. So we'll have to give that one time right there. But in the meantime, it is day 2 of NFL free agency. So we're going to do some live updates on this one. Live updates. Then after that, we're going to take a little break. Then we're going to switch and talk about the NBA last week. Here's some recent updates on what's been going on in day 2. So we had day 1. Now, granted, I mean, technically it begins on tomorrow, but really, yes, let's be real. I mean, yesterday was day 1. This day 2. So you got Khalif Raymond's headed to the Bears on a 1-year deal, which is just a depth piece. It's one of those wait and see. You got Knox's touched up on that. So Dawson Knox is returning. So you have Dawson Knox, DJ Moore over there in Buffalo. And got the Minnesota Vikings are retaining their Pro Bowl long snapper. So hey, at least they got some familiarity there, but it's going to be more than just that. And it also got the Packers are releasing Nate Hobbs, and a source said they're doing it with a post June 1st designation. So he won't really get signed until June. And then, hey, maybe they'll give us a little football filler something to talk about when we're previewing the NBA Finals. But then you also got the Panthers are bringing back 2 players from their defensive end, LeBron Ray and Robert Richell, which that's excellent. That's good for them to bring their faces. But and then obviously you see analyst of every Panther signing, Newton. Well, hey, you know that. And then you got Giants are adding Greg Newsome II to a 1-year deal. This is kind of just to prove it. It's always one of those. It's one of those let's just wait and see signings. Because speaking of the Raiders, we talked about them. They're spending. Here's some more spending. They got the Raiders tender they got Thomas Booker IV on a standard restricted free agent deal with Jordan Meredith, and the Raiders have applied for it. So it's not official, but they're looking to make those moves. And the Bills are bringing back Tyler Bass for another year, which is a good move for them because they at least keep some stability. They at least, hey, they got stability with kicker. That's good. And then you got the Packers. They got some depth on the defensive back. They signed Benjamin St. Juste, which is actually pretty good because they did lose Rashawn Gary to the Cowboys. So I guess that's the Cowboys' way of trying to get back at the Packers. But I don't know, man. That doesn't make up for the Micah Parsons boy. With all due respect to Rashawn Gary, he is a good player, but he's not on Micah Parsons level. So, look, I mean, Art Koo might be a little bit happy about that move as at least a start, but he's not the same player as Micah Parsons. And then here's the prediction. Who are the best remaining free? Oh, yeah, and also another one. Travis Etienne to the Saints. I guess Etienne got a nice offer from the Saints, so hey, go get paid. Get yourself paid there, young man. Get paid. Enjoy that money. But team-wise for the Saints, though, they still got some work to do, though. But to be fair, though, you never know. Maybe Travis Etienne, there's an unlikely it's unlikely, but maybe it could help the Saints because, to be fair, the NFC South is still kind of wide open division. For all we know, Travis Etienne could end up possibly being a really good signing for the Saints. Right now it doesn't seem like a big move, but sometimes those free agent signings that you think are just, that's nice, but it doesn't move the needle, could end up doing more in the long haul. So who knows? Maybe, with the NFC South still being a bit of an open division, maybe Travis Etienne to the Saints exceeds expectations and really helps them out. But it's one of those wait and see signings for me. It doesn't really move doesn't move the needle for the Saints. You still need to keep your offensive line stable. You still got to hope Tyler Show actually develops year 2. You still got a lot. And a nice signing in the short term, but you still got a lot of other things that got to fall in place too for the Saints. Now let's take a look. See the screen. It's a list of the top remaining free agents. So let's get into that real quick. My bad. All right, real quick. So here's some of the top free agent signings we got for you. So here we go. The top free agents still left. You got Trey Hendrickson, who is still a free agent. Obviously, I think Hendrickson's waiting his time. He wants to find the best offer possible. He's not just going to take the first offer that's come day one. I think after all those years in Cincinnati, he wants to play for a better team, and he wants to go somewhere where he can actually have a shot at. He gave it his best effort in Cincinnati, so I think Hendrickson's going to wait a little bit till he finds an offer that really is appealing to him, both wise. So I think Hendrickson's going to wait. You got Rasheed Walker. He's still available. You got Brandon Smith, 2 offensive tackles still available. You got Reek Woolen, defensive back, still on the market. And then, of course, you got Kyler Murray. He's still out there. Vikings are the projected favorite to future being, to say the least, in question with a series of injuries, missing his entire rookie season and missing games at multiple points during his second season. So there's obviously some red flags about J.J. McCarthy's future. So Murray might still be a favorite to go there. But who knows? We still got to wait for something official. And then you got Romeo Doubs. He's still on the market. But to be honest, Romeo Doubs is a bit overrated. Sure, he'll get those occasional highlight reel catches. The Nelson Aguilar, Jalen Reagor syndrome of dropping passes from time to time. So that's probably why he's going to have to wait a few days before he's not going to be the top guy on the list. Then you got Clavon Chasen, Juwan Jennings, Greg Newsome, and Taylor Decker are still on. But hey, remember, guys, technically free agency hasn't even started yet. Yesterday, based off all the moves, but like we said, though, there's still time, so we got to wait and see, because I plan on taking a short break, coming back, talking about the NBA a little bit. For all we know, there could be some more moves being made. So I could be giving you guys a live update about some of the moves being made as we talk when we come back from break. So we got to wait and see, man. So we're going to take a quick break and come back, talk a little bit about the NBA. I know I ranted about the Sixers, but about the rest about the NBA. So stay tuned. Your boy will be right back, and we're going to talk about some more. All right, folks, thanks for staying with me. We're right back after a quick break. And now we're on to talk about the NBA. Did talk about, well, the title of my rant was about Nick Nurse. We talked about how more so Nick Nurse is not necessarily in the best situation. Where last thing I'll say about that is I do think Nick Nurse, to be fair, in a different situation with different talent would do better as a coach, but I just think he's in the wrong situation talent-wise. But enough about Nick Nurse. I talked about him and Daryl Morey enough earlier. Now, some NBA talk on the table, folks. And speaking of things being on the table,
Okay, we got some breaking news from the NFL world today. So, former Indianapolis Colts head coach, former Eagles offensive coordinator Frank Reich has now been hired by the Carolina Panthers.
somewhere along those lines,
I like those glasses, dude. They're
tonight's
nice.
gonna be a thriller.
Have I told you I worked at the World Series? It was my first year at the stadium. I went to Fanatics Fest, I went to Comic-Con, and I went to the World Series. It was my first year at the stadium, and the Yankees made it all the way to the World Series. Unfortunately, we lost 5 games to the Dodgers.
I said the Giants will be a perfect fit for John Harbaugh because you already established the quarterback situation. You already established the running back position. You already established the wide receiver position, and you have the top 5 pick in the draft.
Todd Bowles, at best, is a mediocre coach. He did the same situation with the Jets back in 2015, ultimately maliciously ruining a power-hungry Baker Mayfield and potentially Mike Evans.
But Indianapolis ultimately came back, got the go-ahead touchdown. Then, at the end of the game, when Brady got the ball less than a minute, Peyton had his head down the entire time because he knew Brady had enough time. But the interception happened. It's funny. All of a sudden, Peyton Manning hears the crowd roaring. He finally looks up and starts jumping up and down real.
That'll be later tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So with that being said, though, we're still here on the 3-point blitz. Let's talk about the NBA. Now we're going to start off. We'll talk about the Eastern and Western Conference teams of the week. And for teams of the week, I'm going off the 1 week in between episode 49 and episode 50. So we'll start off. Arku, if you're still here, as promised, I'm going to talk about the Thunder. So let's start with the Western Conference team of the week, the OKC Thunder. OKC Thunder team who, over the past 7 days, starting from last Tuesday, have had a phenomenal stretch. In a game winner by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who pretty much locked his case for being back-to-back regular season MVP with that performance last night. He had hit a game winner last night in a thriller against the Denver Nuggets. And that really helped further the Thunder's claim as a threat to repeat, which they already had, by the way. That just further enhanced their claim. And then you also had not just that, but last week as well, they've also, not just only did they defeat them, they defeated the Knicks last Wednesday in a close game by 3 points, mind you. So there's 2 3-point wins over the Knicks, one of the top teams in the East, and another top team in the West in the Denver Nuggets. And then they defeated the Chicago Bulls last Tuesday, 116-108, which tells the story of a more competitive game than you'd expect, but ultimately a Thunder win nonetheless. So you have that right there. But then you also have a victory over the Warriors, which honestly doesn't say a whole lot, but it's mostly the fact they won 4 games during that And you also had 2 of those wins came against the Denver Nuggets and Knicks. So that's why I give them nods for team of the week. And yes, that is true. The San Antonio Spurs are looking really good as a team too. And I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being the conference finals this year if we get Spurs and Nuggets conference finals, folks, because those 2 teams those are easily the 2 top teams in the West, bar none. But at the same time, man, I gotta say, I would give the Spurs the number 2 team. I gave them team of the week last week, and they did have a really good week. They had that nice little winning streak going, but, to be fair, hey, they had a win over the Pistons recently. So those are some nice wins over the Detroit Pistons. And then you also got them. The Spurs are a potential runner-up. I'll talk about them in a minute. But I got to say the real team of the week, out west, was the OKC Thunder. SGA's putting together his case for being an MVP, and he's really looked sharp. So I got to go with Western Conference with the Thunder because they still got that depth. Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, guys like Isaiah Joe, Alex Caruso. They still team. Now, the Eastern Conference team of the week from last Tuesday on episode 49 to this week, Eastern Conference team of the week, I'm actually going to go with the Cavs because the Cavs had themselves a really good week, too. You had last Tuesday, they defeated the Detroit Pistons following episode 49. Also, with solid performances from Evan Mobley, Jalen Tyson, too, who's underrated gem, mind you. And he stepped up. No Donovan Mitchell in that game. Jalen Tyson stepped up as the lead scorer. Harden also had 18. Now, Harden, I'll say this. As far as the regular season goes, Harden's certainly a threat to help out with help the Cavs work their way up, possibly to the 2 seed maybe in the East. But you had that. That was one win right there by the Cavs. They destroyed the Sixers last night, which I already talked about. So that's another great win for the Cavs right there. And then the Celtics, they did kind of fall short against the Celtics on Sunday, but hey, you can't win them all. And to be fair, though, they did have a win over the Pistons, which is actually pretty good, too. And they have a win over the Knicks? No, but I would sort of think, did they? No, but I got to go with the Cavaliers, man, because they've really moved their way. And they've been, but now, as far as some honorable mentions for best team, for a good team in the East, I'm actually going to go with the Miami Heat. Now, they haven't had the most difficult schedule, but they're on a 5-game winning streak, and they've also won 8 of their last 10. So I got to consider them an honorable mention for team of the week, as well as the Atlanta Hawks behind Jalen Johnson. They're now, and they've won 6 straight, and they're only a game back from the Sixers for the 8th seed. I mean, knowing how bad it's been for the Sixers and their bad luck with Maxey getting hurt, Embiid being out, Paul George still being suspended, the Hawks could potentially move their way up to the 8th seed. Sixers could fall to the 9th seed, and sucks that the Hornets are only 2 behind Sixers. So I got to also give the Hawks credit as an honorable mention in the Eastern Conference as well. So, I mean, hey, Jalen Johnson, man, he's been doing his thing out there. And I chose to show you that. It's crazy. I even said, what was it? One of my work buddies said back in like late 2025, when it was still early NBA season, that the Hawks needed to move Trae Young and that he was becoming a liability. And now they moved Trae Young to the Wizards, and all of a sudden, look what's happening now. Jalen Johnson's become the lead guy. The Hawks actually look like a potential threat down the line. So I got to say, actually, he was proven correct. And now we'll take a look at the Eastern Conference standings real quickly, where we stand now. You got Pistons are still top. I mean, but they're on a 4-game losing streak. So if you're going to talk about worst, Detroit Pistons, man, they're still in first place, but the Boston Celtics are pretty close to them. So, and they're 8-2 in their last 10. So don't be surprised if Boston ends up taking over the number 1 seed over the Pistons. Because now that Tatum's back, you already have Jaylen Brown's playing at MVP level. You still got guys like Peyton Pritchard, White, Nikola Vucevic, who's still a solid role player with all those other pieces they have. And now you got Jason Tatum's coming back, former Finals MVP. Things are going to be heating up down in Boston, folks. And then you got, of course, the Raptors. They've kind of been about that 4 or 5 spot all season long. So that's kind of consistent with where they've been with guys like Emmanuel Quickly. And they've got a talented team, but they just don't have that dog in them to compete in the big games yet. Maybe they just need, they're just one piece, either they're one piece away or they need a coach that can really just get those players to step up in crunch time, such as a Nikola Jokic or an SGA or Victor Wembanyama. The Raptors just don't have that alpha dog yet that can lead the way. They have a good team, but just not that guy that can help them be contenders at the moment. And plus, the Orlando Magic, to be fair, they've won 4 straight. They've kind of heated up out there. So you see in the Eastern Conference within the top 10 between the playoffs and the play-in brackets where it stands now. I mean, don't be shocked if the Heat or potentially, I'm telling you, I think the Miami Heat could easily work their way up to the 6th seed, and we could see possibly it could possibly, who knows, by playoff time, you could be possibly talking about maybe a you could be talking about possibly a Magic Hawks matchup for the 7th seed, and then maybe Sixers Hornets as the other playing game, possibly the still got to wait and see what happens. It's also a matter of, well, who stays healthy too. It's not just, oh, well, these are the seeds right now, so this is what it's going to end like. Nah, it ain't just that. It's also, well, who the hell's going to, stay healthy? Because anytime injuries can happen at any point easily. A team who's really making a strong push could lose one of their star players at the worst time, and all of a sudden, everything falls apart right afterward. That's something you got to be mindful of too. Now out west, let's take a look out west too at what's going on out there. You see, you got the Thunder still dominating, Spurs a few games behind. You got the Timberwolves that now worked their way up to the 3 seed. So they're pitching in closer. You got the Rockets are out 4, Lakers 5. Although the Nuggets have fallen to the 6th seed, which is pretty crazy. But the fact that the Denver Nuggets are now 6 also goes to show you how competitive the Western Conference is. I mean, there's really a tough, it is a, you see, I mean, it's not an easy conference out west. You look at how many teams are in the, and you think about it. You got the Thunder, defending champs, favorites to repeat. The Spurs having a really good year, climbing back into contention. The T-Wolves, with Anthony Edwards, they're always contenders come playoff time. The Rockets are still in the mix. The Lakers, with Luka now kind of like the uncrowned face of the team to me, because if LeBron retires this offseason, it's officially Luka's team. I mean, to me, it already is. But LeBron technically still being active kind of leaves it up for debate. But I still think Luka is the better. Like if you're talking 2026 form, and then you got the Nuggets are falling to the 6th seed, who are actually a good team. But that just shows you how tough it is out west, competition-wise. But that makes the Western Conference games more fun and more interesting and more compelling to watch and follow. Suns, who've been the surprise team of the year, still at 7th. And you've had, Devin Booker and Dylan Brooks, who got arrested at the worst time possible, man. It looked like he was finally having his real breakout year. It looks like he was doing more than just being a talker. Dylan Brooks was finally had found, and it looks like so far team-wise, he's found the right fit in Phoenix, but to get that arrest at this point as you're making a push, you're going to have to deal with lawyer fees. You're going to possibly have to go to court, either pay a fine or do probation or something, depending on how for his intoxicated driving arrest. It's like, dude, why at this time of the year, man? But the Suns are still the shocking team. You got the Clippers, who've actually been doing move some of their. Maybe that retooling may have actually been better for the team, because now the Clippers are the 8th seed, and with the Warriors, with Jimmy Butler being hurt, and the team just falling to over the past couple weeks, and now the Blazers are now the 10th seed. I mean, granted, the Blazers are probably still going to be the 10th seed. It's probably going to be the Warriors and Blazers for that versus 10. Winner plays the loser of the 7-8 game for the 8th seed. So that's probably still going to stay in place, but Warriors are just lucky that are they even lucky at all? They're just, I mean, sure, they're in the play-in tournament, but is that really a blessing or a curse? I mean, at this point, it's a curse to me, because Jimmy Butler's hurt. You have, it said we got straight to the point stopping by the chat. What is up? Jay stopping by. Seeding means nothing in the West. More home games. Yeah, because, oh yeah, I mean, that's correct. But that's also the crazy part about the Western Conference is it's such a loaded conference out there with good teams that anything can easily happen come playoff time. I mean, who knows? The team that ends up being the 6th seed by the time the playoffs start could end up making it to the finals, possibly. I still think that's probably going to be the Spurs or Thunder, but I mean, you never know. Stranger things do happen sometimes. I mean, sometimes one play, like the Spurs right now, it's the Spurs, to me, it's the Thunder Spurs show out West for the number 1 seed. It's either them or the Thunder out West. I don't think if both teams stay healthy, it's Thunder Spurs conference finals. Winner wins the NBA finals at this point. I mean, but you never know. If someone could go down with a freak injury, and that could open the door for someone else. Because sometimes you never know. But most likely, it's going to be those 2 teams out West. I mean, you still got other good teams, and you're still going to have a fun playoff tournament for sure out West. But ultimately, I do believe come conference finals time, it's going to be one of those 2 teams. I mean, granted, we know never count the T-Wolves out come playoff time, because at the Spurs, teams with who can handle adversity the most will win in the playoffs. Arku believes it's going to be the Thunder winning again. And at this point, when you look at how SGA's heating up, he's made a case for yet another MVP award. It's hard to argue against them. It is. Unless somehow the Spurs can beat them in a best-of-7 series. And with Wemby, we haven't seen Wemby in the playoffs yet. So we still don't know what we're going to seen him play phenomenally as an individual from day one. Even when the Spurs weren't that great, Wemby always shined individually. Now, come playoff time, when legacies are defined, we're going to see what Wemby can do in that scenario real soon. So at this rate, Spurs need a 4th game at home versus OKC to have any chance. I mean, yeah, Jay's saying that he believes home court advantage could help the Spurs in a best-of-7 series against the Thunder. But now the fact that we're having this conversation, the chat about the Spurs and Thunder, that's also driving home the point that, yeah, these are the 2 top teams out West, and most likely, barring some huge unexpected surprise, it's going to be those 2 teams in the conference finals. Now, the Eastern Conference, is probably at this point, I could see Boston probably at least making it to the conference finals, if not the finals, because right now they got momentum on their side, and Tatum's coming back as well. So you already got Jaylen Brown level. I don't think he's going to win MVP. It's going to be SGA for the 2nd straight year, but Jaylen Brown playing, had some of his best basketball, stepping up in Tatum's absence. Now you got Tatum back. You got Jaylen Brown on fire. Jason Tatum, a former finals MVP. You got Peyton Pritchard's having his breakout year. I could easily see Boston running the table in the East and making it to the finals against the winner of a Spurs Thunder series, because that's where it's looking right now. You're right. Those luck now. They've lost 4 straight games, and it's like, I don't know, man. 4 straight, because now the Pistons have had some bad luck. You've seen against teams like the Spurs. Spurs have had their number over the past couple of weeks. And then you've also had, but also the Knicks have kind of had, they've lost to the Cavs. They've lost to the Lakers. Knicks lost last night to the Clippers. Knicks haven't been playing that great lately. So maybe it's just a bad week for them. But, I mean, you're looking at how the Pistons have struggled and how the Knicks have struggled over the past week. And in the East, I mean, and while you do have teams like the Heat, now has adjusted, and you see Jalen Johnson being the guy with the Hawks have adjusted, they're not quite ready to contend yet. They still need at least a playoff run to get that experience under their belt before they have a shot at really contending. And then, like I said, the Pistons, I mean, the good news for the Pistons is they at least will have a favorable first-round matchup being at the top of the conference. They should at least get a favorable opening round matchup. But how do they fare in those big situations? And then that's going to be the interesting question. And also, well, we're still in the recent week. Quick point out about the players of the week. Wemby was named player of the week last week out west, which makes sense. Spurs continued to dominate. Wemby was getting 26 points a game, averaging about 10 per game. That makes sense. And then hero, hey, Knicks, not the Knicks. The Heat are on a nice little winning streak out east. They've worked their wings. Tyler Hero was averaging 26 points a game, about 5 rebounds. He was over 50% from 3. So considering how critical he was in the team's success, easy schedule or not, I kind of get it. But at the same time, I mean, I think Hero got the player of the week because he stood out more individually than, say, Cavs, because the Cavs, it was more of a team effort throughout the week. Even though I had them as the team of the week, and it's more of a team effort. Hero consistently that it factor for his team. So usually player of the week usually goes to the guy who consistently dominates for their team, not necessarily on the best team, because sometimes for the best team, that's usually 1 or 2 or 3 guys pull their weight throughout the week helping the team. Whereas, like, usually, like I said, for the, I mean, in that consistent it factor last week is more likely going to win a player of the week. And Arku commented on the series, the possible 7 against the Spurs, and then Jay commenting about Cavs have 2 guys you don't want on your team come playoff time in Harden and Mitchell. Yeah. James Harden. Yep. Take a look at that final season with the Sixers as a perfect example. Game 1, drops over 40. Game 5, puts them up 3-2, has over 40. Game 7, 41 minutes, where, as the RDC World Skip put it, you would have to think they'd get a lot of points in 41 minutes, but he only had 9 points. And watch it, but that, and then Donovan Mitchell, so far, he looks like he's James Harden reincarnated come playoff time. So, factor, and just look at the Cavs record in the playoffs in recent years. Yeah, they had that comeback against the Magic, but outside of that, Cavs have not impressed come playoff time. And don't even give me last year against the Heat. With last year's Miami Heat, that was the worst team to ever make the NBA playoffs. That put together a valid case against the play-in tournament even existing. Heat team that was the 8th seed last year had no business even being in the playoffs, period. Particularly game 4 where the Cavs pulled the sweep. The Miami Heat pretty much mentally quit before that game even started. So don't even count that as a big accomplishment for the Cavs in the playoffs. Okay, that Heat team had no business being there last year. And then you got our coup age. And then Jay plays also the Thunder until they aren't. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, everybody, they consider the Thunder the favorites to repeat. Proven wrong. And if the Thunder repeat, they're going to be favorites to 3 going into next season. So, yeah, that's actually a great point. They will be. It's kind of almost like the closest thing we get to the Chicago Bulls. Now, obviously, comparing the Jordan Bulls to today, any teams today is an apples and oranges comparison because you're talking 2 entire teams. But if you were going to look for the closest thing, they are the Thunder in terms of they're the team that they actually do get beat. So in that regard, that's the ultimate apples to oranges comparison to compare any team to the 90s Bulls teams. That's but now also, but we still a few ago. I did, since it is March and it's March Madness, I did this a few on my Tuesday night show with Agent Warrior, which I promoted after the break, but skit I did on my channel last year for you guys. It pertains to March Madness and casual fans basing their March Madness pools off team records. So I'm going to share this skit with you guys. I did this last year, so I'm sorry. So here we go, folks. So this was from last year around March Madness. I did, guys. We'll have a little bit of fun watching this, and then I'll drop some predictions for teams, and we'll call the show after that. So here we go. This was from last year when the arrogant employees March Madness pool collapses. So here we go. It's March Madness time, baby. I got my pool locked. This year's going to be the year. Seeds 1, 2, and 3 are a lock this year. Bro, have you seen the team record? 3 matchups? All 3 matchups are mismatches. Yes, I understand that upsets happen, but this year, they're complete mismatches. All right, game time, baby. All right, now I get to sit back, enjoy a cold one, watch the number 3 seed in, and keep that pool coming strong. Man. Matches, please. It's a little bit closer than I expected, but they got this game locked. My pool will be doing great tomorrow morning. All right. Up by 2. I expect them to win by more than that, but it's still a win. I mean, they're going to need a miracle here to make it happen. They're going to have to go for a 3. And the odds of making it are slim. Yo. All right. For 1 year, can everybody play up to abilities one time? All right, I'm done with work-related things for the day. I'm going to relax a little bit. So this is supposed to be a different character in the skit. We ain't going to worry about that. Although they did bring one thought to mind. What's going on with March Madness? The C. Oh, we got an upset.
Oh, Nick's good, because he was being way too cocky and full of himself in the office. I can't wait to see him tomorrow.
All right, so that was just a little fun skit. It was something I did last year around March Madness time. Just wanted to share it with you guys, because usually that's what happens with a lot of casual fans come March Madness. They have this idea in their head of how it's going to go. They look at team records. They look at the school they look at which schools are the most popular out of the teams with the best records, and they usually start picking the top drawing schools with the best records. Like they pick a lot of them solely based on record and based on popularity, assuming that, oh, it's Ohio State, they must have the best team, they're a popular school. Or, oh, it's North Carolina, they must have the best team, they're a popular basketball program. Or Duke or Kentucky. They'll make those assumptions like, oh, these teams must, if they got a top 3 record, they must be the best team because of that name recognition that comes with being, with Kentucky or North Carolina or Duke, for example. So that does happen a lot. Or UConn, especially if there were to be a pool with the women's side, because years, and it looks like they're keeping that going this year. So I just thought I thought it was fun. A lot of casual fans doing. Hey, it's March Madness time, so it's relevant to what's going on in the sporting world now. But I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll talk more March Madness later tonight. Everything on the table with me and Agent Warrior X. So I'll plan on talking about that later tonight. But before I go, real quickly, just some quick predictions for tonight's NBA games. Let's see. We got Sixers and Grizzlies. I mean, Sixers are at home. Win. Heat and Wizards. Give me the Heat. Pistons Nets. Perfect game for the Pistons. At 4-game losing streak to an end. Mavs Hawks. Give me the Hawks to keep that momentum going. Rockets Raptors. I'll take the Rockets, but it could be a competitive game. Oh, we got a good one tonight. Spurs and Celtics, a potential finals preview, maybe this year or possibly next year's finals. But I'll say in Spurs are at home. It's in San Antonio. Give me the Spurs to get the win. Suns and Bucks, I'll take the Suns to win that one. Bucks are just awful this year. Warriors and Bulls, oh my God. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I pick YOU. Warriors, don't let me down. I know you're crap right now, but don't let me down. Hornets, Blazers, give me the... That actually could be more game than some people would think, because they're kind of on par with each other. Like the Blazers are kind of one of the best teams on the East, so they're kind of on par to have a competitive matchup. I'll say out West in Portland, though. I'll take the Blazers since it's out West. Pacers, Kings. Oh my God. If DeMar DeRozan plays, give me the Kings. Lakers, T-Wolves out West. I'll take the Lakers at home. So we'll just say blind predictions for tonight's games. So, yeah, that's all I go to the Blitz. So, for any college basketball fans, if you want to hear more talk about college basketball, you'll have that later tonight on Everything on the Table, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with me and Agent Warrior X, where we'll talk about it. So, that being said, guys, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the 3-Point Blitz. We'll be back next week with episode 51. We'll have some more NFL free agent moves, more NBA content to talk about, maybe a little bit of March Madness to talk about. So that'll be on tap for next week. Thanks for tuning in. If you guys can catch me later tonight, Everything on the Table, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be doing this on my channel, Agent Warrior X's channel on the Hardcore Sports Network. So make sure you tune into that one. But if you don't get the chance to catch it, have a great rest of your day. Try to enjoy this warmer weather if you can. Until next time, it's your boy Nicky Steez signing off. Peace.